Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about how to use Microsoft Teams for customer service. We have Jimmy Lee with us today. He's going to be presenting the webinar and he'll be starting in just a second. Before he does, I just want to let everyone know that the webinar is live today and we do have a question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If you do want to submit any questions throughout, simply click the icon that has the little speech bubble with a question mark in it, and somebody will be here to answer those questions for you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Charlotte. So we're going to dive straight into this webinar now on how to use Microsoft Teams for customer service and choosing that best solution for your business. I'm going to quickly start off with a quick company introduction. So Geomont's been working with unified communications and contact centers within the Microsoft space for over 15 years. We are a Microsoft Gold partner, and with the knowledge and experience that we've had over that course of time, we're bringing that into play into Microsoft Teams, which is what we're talking about today. A bit of a personal introduction. I'm Jimmy Lee. I'm a product manager at Geomont, and I'm primarily focusing on Microsoft Teams products to deliver that innovation and value to this marketplace. So let's dive straight into the agenda now. So the agenda goes as follows. Why Microsoft Teams and how that fits in. We'll then be going into how Microsoft Teams works in the customer service environment. Within that, we'll look at the key requirements in terms of customer service and contact center, and then build some use cases out of that as well. So we'll see that all as part of this webinar. Once we've gone through that, we'll go through the different levels of integration that's available. That will depend on your key business requirements as well also. And then the architecture approaches that we'll have in play as well that are actually recommended by Microsoft. To round up the webinar, we'll go through the adoption recommendations. So we've actually pinpointed 4 key factors in terms of recommendations for a Teams contact center or a customer service hub. So let's go into and deep dive into these agenda points. Why Microsoft Teams? So with Microsoft Teams, the adoption of Teams itself, actually before the pandemic was really, really great. So there was 44 million daily active users. Since COVID-19 has happened, or actually is currently going on, unfortunately, Microsoft Teams is seeing a value of actually 75 million daily active users. And these are the statistics that Microsoft published as of the end of April. I believe these are the latest figures as well. So there's no doubt that these numbers are probably a lot higher than what they were. We're seeing that 650,000 organizations of more than 10,000 users are using Microsoft Teams. So that's a real mass capacity that we are seeing today. So, you know, with that booming, we are seeing the back office agents and the front office agents are connecting with each other due to the remote working circumstances as well, using this unified communications platform, Microsoft Teams. In addition to this as well, with Skype for Business Online, the end of life has also been announced for that. So there's also a bit of an organic transition there as well, as users of Skype for Business Online who will be looking to migrate over the course of the next 10 to 12 months, will be moving over to Microsoft Teams as their platform. I believe the Skype for Business Online end of life date is 31st of July 2021. So, you know, we're in a position where actually the growth of Microsoft Teams is still growing today, and it will continue to grow as well in the future. The third point is a topic that we can't really get away with at the moment, but COVID-19 work from home transition. This has really been a driver of Microsoft Teams. You know, most of us today are probably working from home. You know, you can see me at this webinar working from home. You know, we're in a position where we need to communicate and continue our business remotely and not in the office. And Microsoft Teams has been able to do that. It's given us the collaboration platform for us to be able to communicate with our peers. And we're now looking into actually how this can be used to communicate with customer service as well. So outside of our peers, but actually to leverage the platform to be able to do this as well. let's move into Microsoft Teams in a customer service environment and what them key requirements are. We did a lot of research in terms of our customers and the marketplace as well, in terms of the three key pillars in terms of requirements for Microsoft Teams and how that could be handled in a customer service hub or a contact center. And the three key requirements that come into play were customer routing, customer service insight, and flexible working. And let's go into a little bit more detail as a summary. Customer routing is important here to be able to get that first contact resolution. So there will be plenty of users of Teams within your organization. And in order for me as a customer to be able to be dealt with and my inquiry to be handled as quick as possible, but as effective as possible as well, being able to be delivered to the best suited agent during that point is actually really, really important. From an agent experience, there's no need to be able to transfer the call, escalate to a supervisor during that point. But also from a user experience as a consumer, it's also it's also a customer satisfaction level, is that I'm not being transferred. I don't need to repeat my conversations over and over again, and I'm talking to that same person who knows that full context of that conversation as well. So in terms of the customer routing, that is a real key requirement and pillar that we'll dive a little bit deeper into once I've gone through the other two. The second pillar is customer service insight, and with customer service insight, it's really key as part of dealing with customer conversations to understand the performance of agents, the performance of conversations from a customer perspective as well, from a real-time and historic perspective. So for real-time, me as a team leader or a supervisor is able to actually have a look at who's logged into the system, what workload they are carrying, for me to be able to perform some key actions to actually make the day-to-day operations more efficient. From a historic perspective, I can have a look at things like what conversations have been going on throughout the day, where my peaks are, where my troughs are, and me as a resource planner is then able to plan ahead in the future based on the historic data that I have today. So having that insight from customer service point of view within Microsoft Teams is actually really important to drive an efficient business. And the third one is flexible working, and flexible working has shot up the list this year due to COVID-19. But with flexible working, having the ability to be able to do the customer service, not only just from the office, but also from your home or a safe place, it is also key in today's world as well. And what we see from customers today is that the legacy on-premise systems and UC contact center software that they use, there was a real hardship in terms of actually being able to transition that into a work from home environment. So from where we are right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into each one of these pillars. And I'm actually going to use our Geomant solution called BuzzEasy to be able to provide some examples in terms of customer routing, and insight. So this particular use case is to be able to handle incoming conversations with a greeting, be able to set some skills and attributes to that customer conversation. So me as a consumer, maybe I've called the complaints line, and I want to be able to set the correct tag or attribute to say that this is to do with a complaint. So I want to, and then at that point there, I can then queue that call into Teams to be able to find that best suited agent to be able to deal with complaints. In addition to that as well, in addition to be able to configure and set that up, we see in today's world, it's so dynamic in terms of being able to handle the workload with the limited resources that we have today. So updating the agent skills and the attributes through a self-service portal is actually a real key factor in terms of being able to do customer engagement successfully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to my desktop, and I will start running some. I'll run a quick demo in terms of customer routing. So from here, on the left-hand side, I've got my my mobile phone. On the right-hand side, I've got my agent desktop. I'm going to call into the Geomant Teams queue now to be able to handle to get hold of an agent. Once that's answered, I will get a greeting message, and I'll be waiting on hold, waiting for an agent. So at the moment, I'll be hearing some queue music down my headset. Set myself to available and wait for that call to arrive to me, because now I'm at the point where I'm as a customer, I'm waiting, but also the agent's available. However, it's not arriving to me. So let's have a look at the self-service portal and have a look at my resources and capabilities. Let's add my webinar skill to my resource. So Jimmy, as an agent, I now have a webinar skill that I can handle this particular call. And now that call has now arrived to me within Teams. So my call has arrived, I can answer the call and then start dealing with that conversation. So you can see there the ability to be able to update them skills and attributes through that portal, wait in the queue and handle that. You can, and as you saw that quick pop up of there as well, I'm running that meeting experience. So the Teams meeting experience is letting me continue and work on that. So moving back to the customer routing, that particular use case I just went through is me as a customer dialing into, let's call it the webinar queue at the moment, and being able to assign my webinar attribute to that particular agent, which was actually myself, to be able to deal with that customer inquiry. The next pillar of the key business requirements that we see is customer service insight. And that's the ability to be able to see the agent activity in real time for customer service conversations. So whether the agent's logged in, whether they're on a break, what conversations they are currently dealing with, all these key performance indicators. As we start looking at the real time and service levels as well, it's really good to be able to see a quick snapshot of, say, how many calls are currently in that queue, to be able to make some decisions on maybe we need to provide an overflow for that particular customer service line. In addition to that historical insight, we have the agent and conversation activity, and that can be powered through within Teams with Microsoft Power BI. So as I go through a quick demo using our BuzzEasy solution to be able to do this, I'll quickly go through actually real-time and historic side of things as well. But just before I do that, let me just go through the final point, and the final point is really important, is that we see that customizing the reporting and the insights to your business KPIs is actually such an important factor. And the things to start looking for when you start thinking about the business KPIs that we want to be able to see and have the visibility to, requires the solution that you're looking for to have a real good API first architecture. And that API needs to have all the reporting and all the analytic needs that you need to be able to build your business KPIs and be able to build your insight reports based on that. So moving forward, I am going to have a look at my desktop. Okay. My phone's down on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, you see my Teams client. And my Teams client has a real-time wallboard here to be able to see what the current status of that queue is. In addition to that as well, I can see my logged in agent statuses. So I can have a look at that. But in addition to that as well, moving over to Power BI, I've got my Teams Contact Center sample report here that's loading up in Power BI, connected to our API, to be able to give me the agent performance side of things. So I can see agent performance in terms of ring duration, but also moving over to the conversation side of things, I can quickly have a look at the data. There's no data in here at the moment, so what I need to do is probably just change the date range on this. If I change it to years to get all the data that we can, that should do the job. Right, okay. So all the data is now here in terms of actually my support and sales queues. I can have a look at my peak hours in terms of call traffic as well. So that gives me the insight in terms of planning for the future. As well, on top of all this as well, and this report, I also got the digital channels report as well. So within the same Power BI application, I can actually have a look at the number of conversations by channel, whether that's WhatsApp, email, Facebook, SMS, web chat. Now, all this information is there in front of me. That's using our API to be able to get that data. And it's given me whether the conversation's also been escalated to an agent as well. So if there's any self-service or AI involved, I can then actually have a look at some key performance indicators to see whether how successful the self-service or the chatbot has been as well. So moving that back over to my PowerPoint, I am now going to go down the route of looking at the third pillar, the final pillar, and that's the flexible working pillar. So working from home using solutions delivered from Azure Cloud, that seems to be a real important trend that we see in terms of flexible working, and that really aligns with the Microsoft Teams platform. Microsoft Teams is run from Azure. Microsoft Teams is available no matter where you are, so you can collaborate. And finding a solution, a contact center as a service solution or a customer service solution that does the same thing, really works in synergy with Microsoft Teams. So you don't lose that advantage of using Microsoft Teams, and actually you gain this contact center as a service as well. You provide the consistent customer service experience regardless of the location of the agent advisor. So previously, beforehand, when we actually went into lockdown in March time, we saw a lot of IT projects in terms of transitioning from the on-prem legacy systems and move into a cloud-based system. With this and with a contact center as a service solution that you're looking to adopt within Teams, you're providing that same experience. So there were quite a few issues in terms of actually being able to open contact centers at the start of it. With the new solution that customers are looking to adopt in terms of customer service within Microsoft Teams, being able to provide that consistent customer service where me as a consumer or a customer would not be able to tell whether the agent advisor is at home or at the office. That is a real key requirement. And the third one, just to quickly go back to customer insight, is that there's no change to customer insight with flexible working. So, the reporting, the analytics in terms of the real-time side of things, that should not change with flexible working. So how does it work? What are the different levels of integration as we start going through this? What we have here is a common architecture for contact center partner integration using Microsoft Direct Routing. Microsoft Direct Routing was released quite recently, this year or tail end of last year, and it provided a session border controller to be able to connect to Microsoft Teams via SIP. So this provided inbound and outbound voice services to Microsoft Teams, and it gave a route of integration. So with that in mind, contact center as a service providers started to have a look at this and have a look at how they can integrate using SIP to the session border controller to connect up to Microsoft Teams. And this common architecture, which is actually published by Microsoft themselves as well, really shows actually, how such a technology or such a feature that was enabled by Microsoft can really leverage on being able to provide customer service. In addition to the SIP integration as well using Direct Routing, there's also Teams APIs that are available today as well. So we can use the Graph APIs to be able to do the authentication side of things, to be able to provide a single sign-on, not to ensure that you maintain multiple logins at the same time. You can have a directory service in terms of being able to look at Teams contacts, and even a presence service as well. It's worth bearing in mind here that the presence API itself is currently not in GA yet. It's available, but it's not in GA by Microsoft yet, but that will be coming in the near future. So as I move into the common architectures slide and move into how the integration options are, what we're aiming to look at is actually how contact center applications and Teams integrations are currently integrating together, and what the integration options are between the two ecosystems. And what we're actually going to follow here is the levels of integration available, and they will be, we will actually use some Microsoft terminology here. Microsoft have split this into 3 tiers in terms of connect, extend, and power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delve into each of these 3 integration options, see how this fits your sort of business needs, and then provide actually some examples using the BuzzEasy solution to see this in action. So with the Connect integration, and this is the first tier of integration, is to be able to provide Microsoft 365 login for contact center agents. So using the APIs that are available by Microsoft, we can then do the Microsoft 365 login for contact center agents. No need to maintain multiple logins, as mentioned. Call flows via direct routing, so we will have the call flows that are available, and using the session border controller in that common architecture diagram, we're then able to deliver them calls inbound and outbound to Microsoft Teams. The third one is to go through the Teams Graph API, and how that integration can provide us with the presence and the users that are sitting on Microsoft Teams. So this is the connection and the connect between the front office in terms of customer service to the back office. Use cases such as if you had to, there was an invoice inquiry that happened on a customer service level and you had to make a consult to the finance department, then that connection is there with the contact center as a service solution to be able to meet your back-end office to get that information. And the final one is the use of a Microsoft certified session border controller. So with direct routing, there's a compliance from Microsoft to be able to use a certified session border controller that they have certified. Which moves me on to the connect and extend. So with connect and extend, we will then go into the call control handling of that delivery of that call. So we've now delivered that call. We want to control that call and be able to deal with that inquiry. So we're extending on our functionality to be able to handle that, and also at the same time we've got advanced routing configuration and workflow setup for complex call flows. So I'll go through a workflow setup actually in my next part, but in here, depending on the advanced routing configuration, you saw me add the webinar skill to my agent. There was also the ability to be able to do data dips to certain line of business applications as well, to be able to do priority-based routing, VIP routing. So whatever fits your business needs in terms of the routing side of things, we can also provide a solution to do that as well. And in addition to this, there's the chat and other digital channels that integrated with Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams can provide the voice side of things, but also it can also do the chats and the collaboration, bringing in the likes of the social channels in terms of Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. All them other digital channels can also be integrated at this point as well. So let's dive. Let's go back to my desktop and let's go through a quick call control scenario. So I'm going to dial into the contact center queue again using the Geomont Teams queue number, and I've got the call instantly this time because we've already set that I've got the webinar skill. At that point, I'm now going to be connected up, and from here, I've got the call control that's available right from my agent UI. So I can place the call on hold, I can resume the call, I can even drop the call if I wanted to. But let's redirect. So from here, I can see there's an agent that's available on break. I can have a look at the queues that I've got available to me. But also, I'm also connected up to the Graph API to be able to look at my Teams users. So, and in addition to this as well, I can see the presence availability at this point. Let me just hand this off to the QA team. I've done a redirect to the QA team. My call is still on the line. I'm just going to put myself on break, and the QA team will then handle that particular call. So from this point here, I will then move into the third tier of integration. And that third tier of integration is called Extend and Power. And this has statements such as Contact Center as a solution, Contact Center as a service solutions delivered from Azure platform natively. So as Teams is delivered from the cloud, a solution like BuzzEasy is also delivered from the cloud and born from the cloud as well. We consume the likes of the Azure compute resources, the Azure storages. So all the platform as a service components that can be used is consumed for the cloud reasons and the scalability reasons. But in addition to that, in terms of as a non-functional requirement, let's go back to a functional requirement in terms of we want to be able to power conversations by Azure services such as AI and omnichannel routing. So one of the things that come into play at this point is the ability to be able to actually consume even more services from Azure. And one of the services that's getting more and more popular is actually being able to infuse AI into your customer service. Azure services like Microsoft Cognitive Services, where you have things like natural language understanding and knowledge-based handling, that can be infused into your conversations when it comes to customer service within Teams. And in order to power them conversations, we've integrated to the different kinds of APIs in terms of the bot framework and all the others. But what I actually want to do is I want to bring this into life a little bit as well. So what I will do is I will move back over to my desktop and have a look at a Facebook Messenger conversation that comes into play and show the workflow handling. So I'm just going to quickly say hello. And once I said hello, it's going to initiate this workflow. And the first part of the workflow is ask name. It's not actually ask my name because I'm using the Facebook Graph API to get my name, but what it needs to know is what my preferred language is. Once it's done that, the bot has now moved over to the next dialogue, and that dialogue is an FAQ. So from an FAQ point of view, we're now integrated to Cognitive Services to be able to answer any frequently asked questions. So let's work out the intent of how do I reset my password, and then there will be an instant response that comes back in terms of an article to be able to reset. However, it's not the end here, because what we can do is we can provide escape clauses to actually get over to an agent as well. So from an agent point of view, you're able to select service desk, and then that's going to actually go straight to an agent to be able to handle that conversation. Okay, that conversation's not arrived to me at the moment, so let me jump back on the portal. I can see here that UK chat is a routing property. So what I'll need to double check is that my user, Jimmy, has got that routing property of UK chat. Yep, okay. So I'm going to add UK chat as an attribute to my resource. I'm going to add that in now, submit. And from this point, I'm going to go back to the agent UI, and the conversation will arrive to me once that's been committed in. Here we are, that conversation has now arrived to me, and I've now got full context in terms of the conversation. So even with self-service and using the Azure AI and fusing that, I've also got all the ability here to be able to see the conversation history, see the customer data in terms of what channels he or she's been using, and some activity history here as well. So this is all in play in terms of being able to deal with the conversation and how to infuse the Azure Cognitive Services to this as well. So moving back over to here, we are going to go through and round up with the recommendations that we have. The 4 key factors and recommendations when we come to Teams adoption is to be able to pinpoint your real business requirements. So the 3 key pillars that we saw today, I'm sure there are a lot more, but really have a good think in terms of what your key business requirements for customer service within Teams. Once that's been done, create a short list of vendors in terms of what your integration point should be. So Teams Contact Center, Teams have a certification program for contact center. We are actually part of that program at the moment as well. So there is a short list of vendors there. Pick them out, have a look at what solutions they can provide and whether they fit your requirements. But also the third and fourth point are really, really key, is to really consider your integration options. So this is actually going to justify, what APIs you would need in terms of running customer service on Teams, whether that's a customer engagement hub or a contact center. But really have a look in terms of your integration options, whether there's integration to CRM needed or any other line of business application, and really work towards what type of APIs or how many APIs you would need as part of the platform. What Buzz-Easy is part of is that we are an API first architecture. So we really do believe in the ability to be able to integrate your line of business applications during this point. And the fourth option is to think ahead in the future as well. So really have a look at, you may just be a voice contact center at the moment, but think about whether digital transformation is part of your future strategy. If it is, make sure that the vendor that you use is going to be future-proofed to be able to provide that capability for you, and this would then mitigate any risks in terms of actually having integration options for new digital channels, or to actually migrate your solution to another contact center as a service. So from here, I want to just say a quick thank you for everyone who's joined the webinar. I hope this has been very useful to you. If you do want to see a more fully featured demonstration, or if you want to have a discussion with us, please get in touch. All our details are on the page at the moment. It's also worth noting that we are available on Microsoft AppSource as well as a preferred solution. And I hope all your questions have been answered in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Jimmy. I think we managed to get through all of the questions apart from one, which we'll follow up with via email. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you all.